Hey ladies, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about a hot topic. It's a topic that is controversial in North America and in Europe, and maybe like Australia, like the Western world. And that is a man's ability and willingness to provide. That means pay for you and his offspring with you. So where I am from, this is not a controversial topic. In the Latin American culture, and I shouldn't generalize because there's cultures in Latin America like Argentina and maybe a little bit in Brazil now. In fact, in Mexico, it's changing. The culture now is accepting a little bit more when men are not providers. And you can imagine the problematic that causes. So back when I grew up in Mexico, I grew up there from the age of 0 to 20. I'm full-blown Mexican, right? My parents, everyone in the family is Mexican, right? And there, this is a given. This is obvious. This is not something that anyone questions whether it should be. It just is. It is. Nobody ever talked about it because it just is. A man, like all the men, are always paying for if there's a woman in the presence. So say there's, a group of women and a guy or two, even one guy takes them out for dinner, he's paying for all of them. Your uncle is paying for your stuff, your dad, your grandpa, like your brother even. All the men in the Mexican culture will never allow a woman to pay. Why? Because this is probably where, the macho man stereotype came from the Latin culture, literally. Why? Because the men never allow a woman to pay. Why? Because they have their full-blown masculine DNA that exists in the man from the birth of times, from whenever the Homo sapiens existed to today. So if you're North American, if you're Canadian, if you're, from Europe, listen up. I don't care if your culture says, or it's not a practice, that men are not the full providers. Their human nature, they are genetically wired to provide for you. Okay? I think there's a lot of coaches out there that are starting to teach us now. And especially coaches like myself that are not, Caucasian or, from the Western culture. You know what I'm saying when I say Western. So it's starting to become a thing, and I'm happy that this is happening in North America, and I think in Europe this is non-existent at this point yet, culturally. But like I said, when it comes to human nature, this is a fact that a man will feel fulfilled and masculine and like an actual man when he's providing. So I don't care if you're a man in China or in Timbuktu or in Germany or in Mexico, man's DNA is to provide and protect a woman. Now, obviously, if you're in your 20s and you're dating men in your 20s, the man in his 20s, he's barely studying, he's graduating from college, he's building his, resume, and he's learning to be a provider. He's learning to be a man. Okay? So naturally, if you're dating in this, range of age, I think if you're dating someone in his 20s, I hope you are yourself like 18 and you're dating someone 28. But I hope if you're a woman in your 20s, you're not dating someone that is in his 20s. So go watch my other videos that talk about why men like younger women, younger than themselves, and just younger in general. If you're a woman in your 20s, you want to be dating a guy in his 30s, like 5-10 years older than you, at least. Why? Because he, the older a man gets, the more desirable he becomes, because the more man he becomes. That means he's not only, he will be more self-confident because he has built up his business or his career, his bank account, so he feels more confident around women. Okay? So if you're a man watching this video and you are in your late 30s and 40s and you don't provide or pay for a woman when she's in your presence, I invite you to get your stuff together. If you want to date women of higher caliber, women that have their stuff together, women of certain standards and certain look, right? Now back to us ladies. So if your culture has told you that it's fair to pay your share, or that it's okay to pay your share, or that you should accept that, think again. You see, when I first moved to Canada, women that were Canadian were telling me, oh, so now are you going to do what Canadians do? Like moving with a guy you're dating, or, paying for things like 50-50 kind of stuff. I said no, because this has nothing to do with culture. This has all to do with human nature. When you're dating, when you're dealing with relationships, if you are not seeing it from the optic of human nature, you're going to have a lot of issues. A huge percentage, if not the majority of divorces, happen because of money. Why? Because a woman married a man that did not have marriage readiness. He was not ready to be a father. He was not ready to be married. Why? Because he did not have at that point in time the ability to provide. So if you want to avoid running into the largest reason for divorce and failure in relationships, don't get together with a man that doesn't have the ability to provide and protect. A guy in his 20s is typically not ready for marriage or being a father. It's a rarity to find a man in his 20s be a full-blown successful entrepreneur. They're out there. I know some. This kind of men are obviously outliers. They're unicorns, and it's not the norm. So men in their late 30s, in their 40s is when they're starting to truly, enter manhood. When it comes, I was going to say when it comes to that, but no, just in general, because manhood goes together with the ability to provide. And now it's also a value in itself, because like a deep, full on, super important value. Why? Because a man that doesn't believe in providing for his mate and his offspring, he literally does not take accountability for his child and for his family. I don't want that. Do you want that? Good luck. Even if you have that. And again, this topic is for alpha females, because it's typically the high achieving women that overlook this topic. You're thinking that, oh no, you're good. You're good because you make a bunch of money yourself. It's okay if you pay partially or fully or partially. Do that at your own risk, because in relationships like that, polarity goes out the window. You start being more similar, more equal in a literal sense. In the literal sense that you may as well have mustache and man organs. You may as well be a man. So how are you going to be attractive to an actual alpha man? If you're a man, is he gay? Or maybe he is a feminine in the relationship? If that is the case, that you are the masculine energy and the masculine pole and he's a feminine pole, it can work. Why do you think you see some few relationships that have stood the test of time where the woman is a provider? I don't know any personally, but I like I've heard, but I don't even know where. I don't know if I have actually, but it could be because she's the masculine in the relationship and he's feminine. So yeah, you can be paying a man to stay with you, and a lot of women buy their husbands and buy their guy just to have companionship, and they're not happy. They're pretty miserable and tired, start to get wrinkled, old, like all these sick. More than anything, they start to get sick. Why? Because you being in your masculine energy, it's not normal to be like that 24/7. It's supposed to be a backup mechanism in the event that you need to take care of yourself for X or Y reason, like your husband dying temporarily. So, are you from Europe? Are you from the US? Are you from Canada? Just period. If a man does not have the ability or willingness and happiness to provide for you at any stage of the relationship, it's a no-go. You're going to bump into issues, and you're going to have to turn into the feminine or into the masculine at some point in that relationship. Okay? That's kind of all I have to say, so stinginess, because there's not a lot to say. It's very simple. Like, don't ever go out with a man that doesn't take charge financially. If you're on a date, anyone expects you to pay anything, like, I know I'm not seeing them again, ever. And you shouldn't either. I mean, you do you, boo, right? But I'm telling you that this is not an opinion. This is not a lifestyle. This is not a cultural thing. Most importantly, has nothing to do with culture, where you're from, where you're born. It has to do with the fact that you are a human being. And you can't escape your animal nature or your human nature. You're not a floating spirit. So anyway, ladies, there's that. And it is a red flag, suffice to say, when a man is stingy and when he doesn't have the ability to provide, and he is older than, I don't know, in his late 30s, right? Somewhere in his 30s, late 30s, like if he is in his late 30s and he's in his 40s and there's a money providing issue, like freaking run. Like, I don't care who it is, freaking run. Unless you want to go through all the issues that come with it. Like, for example, you imagine yourself, pregnant, 8 months, or 7 or 8 months pregnant with a pregnancy condition, and you can't work, and then you give birth and the baby is sick and you have to work. Like, you want to suffer? Go for it. I'm not interested in that lifestyle, and I hope you're not either. So that's it for today, ladies. Watch out for this red flag and stay tuned for more. Bye now.